Welcome, Betsy. This is so good to see you. It's 1 year later. Oh my goodness. So tell me about winning that contest a year ago, the big bash you had, and now a year later, what's happening?
Well, I still don't believe I won it. And I had no idea that presentation was going to be so big. It was so much fun. And it's been quite the year. Marketing Doctor's been wonderful. They've done everything they said they would do. They redid my business card. They redid my web page. They helped me with advertising. So it's really been quite the year.
You made it through the year. You had a phenomenal success getting through the pandemic. And what was it like to work with Marketing Doctor?
Well, they were amazing. They have a lot of nice young people, great ideas. They're very energetic. They're willing to take my ideas and incorporate them to their ideas. If something wasn't working, they're right on it to make changes. So they were very, very accommodating, very easy to work with. Everybody I've met who worked there was impressive.
Your business in Holyoke. You went from the pandemic, and how is it today?
It's still not back to what it was before the pandemic. And that is nothing to do with the advertising campaign. That's to do with kids not playing sports. There's less kids playing sports now than there were before. It's starting to get better, but there's just less volume. So it's still not back to what it was, but it's much better.
Well, welcome to Holyoke Media. We're so pleased today to have Janet Casey, a Marketing Doctor, and also we'll hear from Betsy Frey of Holyoke Sporting Good. So I just want to say this is an interview that we'll learn from the people who are right in our neighborhoods, right in our areas. We're so proud of the achievement, but it inspires everyone. So with that, I'd just like to share that Janet Casey is truly not only one who has achieved much, but she returns it back to the community, and we'll hear a little bit about that. But again, when you think about that, she's been on the Inc. 5000 for the fourth consecutive year. It's fastest growing private company. The Women Presidents Organization has designated her a woman to watch. Also, one of the top 20 fastest growing women-owned companies in the world. So you think this is incredible. And down the road, we'll hear a little bit about how she created this 30K small business advertising campaign to help another woman-owned business who has come through the pandemic with a very deep concern of not being able to be successful and enter Marketing Doctor to truly bring some well-needed support. So Janet, tell me, where did you grow up? And did you envision the success? And did you envision where you are now and your company?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Janine, for all of that. I swear to God, I don't even know who you're talking about when you say that. It's crazy. And good morning, Natalia, and thank you for having me. I just love looking at the screen and seeing three women having a really in-depth business conversation. So thank you for that. So yeah, I'm from Hatfield. I am a local gal. I did do my MBA work in Boca Raton, Florida at Florida Atlantic University, and I spent some time on the Cape, but I am 413 through and through. So, you just talked about the most recent award that our team won was from JP Morgan Chase, and it was a global award, and it put us in, in the top 20 or top 10, even, I can't remember, companies on the globe. And those are the ones that they still give me chills. Honestly, they give me chills because, I luckily have never been somebody with imposter syndrome. I've been in enough boardrooms with stereotypical white men running things to know that they're not so great at a lot of things. Like Michelle Obama has a great quote about that we can talk about, but I've never had imposter syndrome. But to do it here, where we have the labor pool isn't that big and all that kind of thing, bringing good jobs to this area has always been a big source of pride for me. And to say people from here, we're in Hampshire County, but we employ people from the Pioneer Valley, that we can compete globally. That says something. I'm really, really proud of that.
Janet, it is such enormous business success. And I think the award for Holyoke Sporting Goods, that was 40K? That was 40,000, or was it 30,000?
Well, we gave out of our pocket, we gave 30,000,
Okay.
but we also rallied all the local media who
Uh-huh.
also contributed on top of our 30,000, and we brought it up to $52,000 that Betsy received at Holyoke Sporting Goods, and our team worked with her for over a year. So we were completely on a mission to help a local business come out of COVID.
And Janet, then, you're a global business and you're a local business at the same time.
Yeah.
How has the marketing landscape changed even in the last 5 years?
Oh my God, we could have a whole Zoom about that because it's so complicated now, honestly. When the three of us were young, do you remember how many TV stations?
We're
did
still
you guys-
young.
Yeah, I know we're still young, but when we were in our 20s or in our childhood, like on a clear day, I had 3 TV stations. In the storm, I had 1.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So now there's hundreds and there's websites and there's this. And if you look at the metrics and the research of how fragmented advertising is and how many things can possibly touch you before you leave your house in the morning, it's gone from dozens to thousands. And it's just, it's a slippery slope for advertisers to waste a lot of money trying to cover all of these fragmented, the reach of who you're talking to can get very small when you pick platforms that are super niche. And the interesting thing is TV used to be mass media and a local newspaper was mass media, and mass media means over 50% of people will see it. And there's no mass media now. There's none. I think the Super Bowl hits just over 50, but even that's come down because there's so many other options. So there's no mass media. So budgets are very precious and you have to be very careful with a budget. And it has certainly made agencies like our agency that does media very in demand because brands learn the hard way that, they put a lot of focus on creative, like Mad Men developing the perfect creative, and they don't think as much about the media, but it can be wasted in a nanosecond.
And so when you're talking about online, we barely have print in terms of newspapers.
Yeah, it's tough.
So what does your business do? Do you then go to billboards for print, community newspapers? It's like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so if we're talking about traditional media, which means not online, you just talked about. So if we just look at maybe outdoor or audio, if you think about audio, there was a few radio stations. We here in Western Mass were lucky. We had about 10 that scored ratings going back many decades. But now when people get in their car or they turn on audio, it's not that easy. They listen to podcasts and Sirius and Spotify, and they listen to webinars and they listen to linear radio. And if you turn on something like Sirius, you have hundreds of channels.
Right.
So, and then if we look at outdoor is there's bus wraps and there's signs on the side of a building. If you go to any cities locally, we not only have billboards on the highway, and we have outdoor or out of home advertising in Big Y at the deli. If you could be pumping gas and you can be served ads. So again, it's really fragmented. It's really complicated. It's sold as per impression, but you really have to slice and dice your target audience and know where they are and how to hit them and what they consume for media. So here at Marketing Doctor, research it's the keys to the kingdom. And research subscriptions are really steep. We have several that are updated in real time and that really speak to where to reach people. And that is really that's right there is our trump card.
And if I may, Janine, with another question, I just want to follow up, Janet. In this era where we get calls and we get spammed on our phones, how for the research part, is that a bigger challenge also because people are less likely to answer the phone or they're up to here with emails asking questions? How do you address that kind of challenge?
Well, that's a little creepy, Natalia. So to answer your question,
Uh-oh.
typical research, it really breaks down by generation.
Mhm.
So if you get a call, if someone gets a call, research shows that the older their age, the more likely they are to sit and sort of answer questions in a thoughtful way. And people past retirement have more time on their hands, so they give more generously of their time to research. But the data that we're using is not only voluntary first party data and zero party data where people volunteer it, is we're looking at the metrics from different platforms and from sort of like you can take a billboard and you can surround the geography and you can know what ISPs and mobile devices pass by it. We don't even get consent. A lot of these research platforms, they're collecting data electronically and through AI, as we all know, because, you know, on this call, we can talk about this necklace and you guys will hang up and you'll be served an ad for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had that happen.
Right.
So it's not, a lot of it isn't voluntary. A lot of it is collected electronically.
Okay, I'm totally spooked. And you know, it's Halloween. We're right into Halloween, so yes.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, when you think about, you know, your trends, you know, in terms of what you're setting, I'm going to just quote a line out of one of your press releases. Marketing Doctor, a data-driven media planning and media buying agency, regularly surpasses other agencies' metrics by 100 to 400%. Tell us about that. That's quite a success story.
Yeah, Janine, that's actually true. Doesn't that sound like false advertising? But it's very true. The good part of 2022 in the last few years is when we win an account and another agency has had it in the past, we get their metrics. So we get their metrics on social media, Google Display, you know, there's a lot of ways to get their metrics. And for example, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, we've done many campaigns for them. And we've also worked for the CDC nationally and the NIH, which is kind of like a pinch me moment when you have those on your roster. But going back several years, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health gave us, they released a quote for us to use. And it said that we were the first agency to bring them into the electronic era, and we served ads in dozens of languages for them across Facebook, Instagram, different platforms about basic public health messaging. It was very important. And when we compared it to the agency who had done it the year before, we were like 200% higher. Our results of who we hit, who responded, who reached out to get information about that campaign. It was 200 to 300% higher than the last agency.
And that's amazing. That is truly.
That was a good feeling because you're testing my memory now. I can't remember if it was about prostate screenings or COVID contact, but it mattered. Like it was a big deal.
Yeah. And when we know that they're different communities, and as you say, fragmented, and so as you just mentioned, there are campaigns where it's multilingual. But then how do you like target like everybody when you know that everybody is different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at COVID, when the first part of COVID was over and we went sort of into, people started getting back to their lives, the communities affected the most and not coming out of that initial phase were deep in communities where they spoke a different language and where they were not mainstream consumers of health information. So one of our clients, which was one of the federal health bureaus, had us reaching out to specific communities by language and by their sort of their ethnicity. And our team here was going so deep that we were placing ads in church bulletins by community to reach specific people whose numbers were still high. And we had to like old school drive checks to the rectory and pay for ads to reach people. So that's sort of the old school way to do it. But also when people log into their favorite social platform, whether that's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, many of those platforms, you can pick your language from thousands of language and be served it. And we were serving ads in people's native languages on those platforms. And that's really, a lot of agencies serve everything in English, especially to Spanish communities, because kind of the research shows that people that speak Spanish can understand English. Well, that's not how they want to be served ads.
Right.
And we take pride in speaking to people in their native language. And it's a lot more work, and it's definitely a key to our success. And think about it, I wouldn't want to be served ads in another language because it's more work
Right.
for me to think
Right.
about what the ad's actually saying.
Yeah, I was saying to somebody the other day that even if somebody doesn't speak Spanish correctly,
Yeah,
the fact they're trying, it's a big heart warmer.
absolutely.
Lots of respect. And so, yeah, you can tell me in English, but if you try to tell me in Spanish, there's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
No,
I
And I know-
totally agree. And the rates of people making appointments for vaccines and all of that was much higher when speaking to people in their native language.
And if, can I talk politics for a second without talking about,
Yes.
it's about their advertising. It's about their engagement that I want to ask questions. What, we don't want to get specific about candidates, but what kind of campaign in 2022, if they after COVID, what kind of campaign do you think would be like the most successful campaign for the candidate? And let's just pick a place. Let's stay out of Massachusetts. This is, from any other state. And I know it's different state by state, community by community,
Yeah.
but there are certain commonalities.
Like maybe women's rights.
Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe. So then, exactly. So then, what's your analysis on how the different campaigns, whether they're local, national, if they're from other states?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
What-
so much
your
happening.
thought?
That's a great question. And again, we have done political work in the past. We even worked on a presidential campaign in 2012.
Mhm.
And the amount of research by zip code is stunning.
Mhm.
Because I have to tell you, what matters here in this area is not what matters
Yeah.
in parts of Delaware. And I can tell you all about the swing states. It's certainly not what matters in New Hampshire.
Mhm.
So usually the candidates, when people are in a tight race, the most customized advertising really wins. And you can go back to several presidential elections. Barack Obama was very successful in slicing and dicing neighborhoods. There's a
Yeah.
big article about it that I had, handy for years after that,
Yeah.
about how he reached people through cable TV channels
Yeah.
that were in the middle of his, like, we don't know if we're going to vote for him or
Yeah.
not. Well, he was buying episodes of, I don't know, some sitcoms on some remote channel, because that was who needed to vote for him. And it was the key to his success. And it gets very granular, Natalia, very granular. In politics, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I wanted to inject here a little sentiment with this same conversation around what you did for Betsy, because she was so taken with the fact that, and you'll hear it in some of the clips, that your firm and you and others listened to her, and you were able to kind of direct back a campaign that and some of the elements that she really believed in. In fact, she held up the card and said, look at the business card. People are noticing me with this. So tell us what was the secret sauce to Betsy's campaign.
That's a great question, Janine, because Betsy wasn't, it's her business is not that easy. It's a family business. It's been in her family for a few generations. And suddenly the world's gone very high tech. And part of her success is she caters to a lot of sports teams in the 413 with different logos, different colors. And she's competing against national chains. You can go online and order shirts for the Smith Academy Falcons from a million different places, including China, at a very low price point. So not only was Betsy's, the challenge with Betsy was to put her on the map, A, but B, it was to update her technology and make her website easier for some coach sitting up on the Mohawk Trail to upload a logo that they probably have, on a piece of paper, and they might not have an electronic file, and have Betsy price that, quote that, and deliver custom shirts. And part of the key to her success is catering to sports teams. So we had to back up the bus when we started with Betsy. We listened to what, her challenges were for a long time, and we did our own research. And we started with a new website, which we did not plan on. So a lot of, how any project, be careful what you wish for, because a lot of things come up and there's a lot of curveballs. And we had to start there. And then we had to go to the TV campaigns and online and get her name out there. And we're just about to bring that all home and pass that off to her, in perpetuity. But really, I feel good about how we modernized her business. And, I am not the highest tech person. I listen to these brilliant people in my office, and it's helped keep me ahead of the curve. But Betsy really is an average local business owner. And, we helped her a lot with that. And we have a website now that she can maintain, which is wonderful. It's not complicated, and it really is state of the art. So we feel good about that.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you started this a year ago and have come through the year and really making a difference with her business. This is a Holyoke business, Holyoke Sporting Good. So if you're out there and want to make sure you get, great service for your teams, please go.
Yeah.
Okay. One more question before we leave, Janine.
I love when she has questions, because that means she is into
it. Janet, do we need to have marketing campaigns on people supporting local businesses more?
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know if that's like a tension for your company, working with places that are not in the 413 plus places that are in the 413, but it's just like Holyoke Sporting Good. She found her niche, or they've had their niche and she has further developed it. And even in challenging times, I just find people, it's like we default to like chains versus the local like hardware store, or Pride gas stations until very recently was owned by someone from Western Mass. How can we help people, get information that's useful to them, to get products that are useful to them, that the money is not leaving Western Massachusetts?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. And, I think we've all seen how the Amazons of the world have affected Main Street in all of our towns. I mean, here in Northampton, we have our challenges right now. It's kind of a different place. But I think all of us have been on the downside of Amazon, where you order that thing, it's not cheap, it shows up, it doesn't fit, it's not the material you thought. And there's a lot of people wanting to touch and feel, sort of what you get. I remember before we met Betsy, I ordered something on Dick's or Amazon, a glove for my son for baseball, and it was very pricey and it was not returnable and it was too small for his hand. I will never, ever do that again. When we were at Betsy's, when you drive by, that place does not look big. Her inventory is amazing. And she has every sport you can think of, water polo, squash, everything is in there, and there's a lot of inventory. So I agree with you that the key to success for a local business is, don't forget to get your name out there. It doesn't cost anything to promote your business on Facebook. For $1 a day is $365 for the year. Put in your zip codes, and you can just remind people like, hey, before you order something online, come in here and touch and feel it, try it on. Sizing can be crazy. A medium is not a medium is not a medium from different places. So we always tell local businesses the $1 a day boost on Facebook goes miles.
Yes, and I gotta say, just hearing this conversation, I look forward to your masterclass on digital marketing, and everything in between. Don't you think, Natalia, that this would be a tremendous opportunity for our business community?
Yes. There's oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Thank goodness this is going to be edited. Oh yes. Okay. I found it. Okay. Seriously, Janet, the last question.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Obviously you're very passionate about the work that you do. I, and you've been doing it for a long time. How have you been able to sustain that passion in your field?
Wow. So to my, for better or worse, I'm an optimist. And sometimes that bites me, right? When you just think the best of it. I wake up every day excited. I've always been that way. It takes a lot to get me down. And sometimes I have my bad days myself, but I snap out of them. And let me tell you, caffeine helps out a little bit, right? I am a coffee drinker of 3 weeks. I just had coffee for the first time 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And my life is already different. But I have to tell you, I'm an optimist, and I can say my first real job after I worked at IBM a little bit in Florida when I was doing my MBA, my first real job was at Channel 40. And wow, was that fun. And one of my colleagues, two of my colleagues, Carol and Kiki, who we're still together. And that was not so recently. Like this was maybe pre-Bill Clinton. So we're all still together. And it has never felt like work for one single day. And I saw a quote recently. I can't remember if it was Warren Buffett or Mark Cuban who said it, because Oprah, Warren Buffett, Mark Cuban, those are my three favorite business owners. One of them said, don't follow your passion, because I would still be trying to be Mary Lou Retton if I did that. I always loved gymnastics. I was passionate, but I was horrible. It said, follow your talent. And if you're doing something that you excel at and that you can differentiate yourself at, and that you're on the better side of it, you won't work for a day. And I have always felt like that. Like I skip to work every day still, even if there's a storm here of stuff to straighten out, I'm excited. And I just encourage people to get involved in something that is not a slog. Get involved in something you actually care about, because marketing is so general, and so is management for kids that are in that. Data, you can take it a lot of different ways. Take it towards something that you care about.